Hello, my name is Ruane. As you can hear from my accent, I'm not French, but I've been living in Burgundy for 20 years and I'm export sales manager for Ruane in the United States. And today, very happy to welcome 50 people from Total Wine & More for a very exciting visit of Antonin Rodet, our winery in the Côte Chalonnaise in the south of Burgundy. So why is Burgundy so difficult to understand? Well, to understand that, a few facts which are very interesting. Burgundy produces less than 5% of total appellation controlling wine in France, and yet we have over a third of the different appellation. And what characterises Burgundies is that we have all these Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays, because they're the only grapes that are really used in making the wines. And all those wines are named after the villages they come from rather than the grape varietals, and so we have 101 different appellations within Burgundy, each of them making wines that are slightly different from their neighbours because of what we call the terroir, which is the geographical and climatic conditions specific to those different villages. So to understand Burgundy, okay, it's all Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, which is the easy part, but you really have to know a little bit about the soil types, the climates, the individual villages, and what sort of wines come from those villages. Then of course it gets even more complicated when you add in the vintage component, because vintage is probably more important in Burgundy than any other winemaking region in the world too. And that is because climatically the weather conditions in Burgundy are very variable. It's a cool climate. I'm speaking to you today in late May from a very cool and rainy Mercure, where of course in some years I might be in a short sleeve shirt and it might be very warm. So the weather conditions are very variable, and of course we only work with these single varietals. Pinot Noir is the most difficult grape to grow, with the thinnest skins, the most difficult wines to make, and so from one year to the next those wines will be very different compared to the wines coming from the same vineyard, from previous years. But as our mutual friend Alfio said to me this morning, vive la différence. That is the real excitement about Burgundy, is that every vintage is different. Burgundy wine isn't like Coca-Cola. Every wine is an adventure. Every vintage is a new experience to discover. Now there are two wines that I would particularly like to talk to you about, and both because I love them and because they are a real example of the terroir concept we've been talking about. We have the two villages of Mercure and Ruane in the Côte Chalonnaise. Funnily enough, the villages are about 3 miles apart and the vineyards touch either side. Ruane is a village that produces 80% Chardonnay, and Mercure is a village that produces 80% Pinot Noir, and yet the villages touch. And currently in your stores you have Ruane Premier Cru La Bressande White, which is a fantastic property. It's 2.6 hectares, which is about 7 acres of a single vineyard monopoly. Monopoly holding means that we are the only owners and only producers of that wine. It's a fantastic Premier Cru White, 100% barrel aged, made in every way like the great Meursaults and the great Chassaignes. Some people describe it as a baby Meursault, we like to describe it as a great Ruane. So for those of you who recognise me, either from my time in your stores in Florida, or who were lucky enough to be part of this fantastic Total Wine & More trip to Burgundy, I'd like to say what a pleasure it was to have you among us. For those of you who haven't been fortunate enough yet to come and visit us, I sincerely hope that you will, and we look forward to seeing you in Burgundy. The doors to our cellars are always open, and look forward to seeing you one of these days in Burgundy. So, cheers.